So very good evening. It's 6 p.m. in India. So good evening all. So welcome to 12th National Conference of Stars Forum. I am B.R. Venkatesh, trustee of Stars Forum and an entrepreneurship promoter. As a nation building exercise, myself and my wife, we are doing it for last 9-10 years, and we have created about 3,000 small-time entrepreneurs. That's what my introduction is. Now about Stars, those who have joined today, I think today is the third day. Other 2 days also, we have talked about Stars Forum. Stars Forum, the mission of Stars is actually Stars expansion is skills training for advancement in rural societies. The mission of Stars Forum is to collaborative body of mutual support of those engaged in vocational skills, knowledge and entrepreneurship driven development of rural communities to facilitate advances in the field and promote innovative approach to reach larger and needy population. The objective of setting up this Stars Forum was, in fact, to serve as a catalyst for networking and knowledge dissemination among organizations engaged in this field, proactively facilitate collaborations and partnerships to broaden inventory of skills training options, create effective value chains, and highlight new business models. To actively support innovations and the use of technology to reach large number of people as effectively as possible. To support organizations scale by helping overcome constraints and building capacity. To nurture future leaders in the social entrepreneurship sector by supporting young professionals in NGO, at least advocacy to enhance policies to advance this field and its impact. Most importantly, the impact. So Stars Forum is all about that. Today is the third day. Last 2 days were very enlightening, and I promise even today it will be one with two real stalwarts putting up their thoughts. Today we have two speakers, pioneers in their field. They will most probably address communities respond to COVID. Today's subject will be more towards that. So about the first speaker, we meet a lot of people in life and observe a lot of things. Some of the things create a different kind of impact on us. In our case also, my case and Tejaswini, also it happened. Similarly, a headmaster of a school was influenced by genius students and their hidden talent. And he realized that these students did get right opportunity and atmosphere to develop their latent qualities. And that's when the birth of Swaroop Vardhini happened. It was late KL Patwardhan who started this organization and devoted his life for enrichment of latent qualities of young, intelligent and capable children from the underprivileged and economically weak section of our society and making them into social assets. Today we have with us our first speaker, Vice President of this organization, who will share his journey and the changes and the adaptability that Swaroop Vardhini scaled during the pandemic. Let's all welcome Shri Shirish Patwardhan and hear from him. Before I request Shri Shirish to start his talk and presentation, request to all in the audience to post their question based on his talk in the chat box, and that we will take up at the time of question hours at the end of the presentation. So all the very best, Shirish sir, over to you.
Namaste to everybody. I am Shirish Patwardhan. I am working for Swaroop Vardhini since 1980. The organization started in the year 1979. The basic idea of Swaroop Vardhini, the focus which Swaroop Vardhini is doing is integrated development of students, especially from socially and economically downtrodden of the society. The activities, ongoing activities at present, I can narrate in 5 to 6 numbers. The first major project which is being on since inception of this trust, that is integrated development of students. There are 16 centers in Pune, in various parts of Pune. Especially, we cater to the needs of the students, intelligent students from slum and slum-like areas. So these centers are nearby such areas in Pune. We also run a Montessori school called named Pakoli. Basically, kids from various slums come to this Montessori school. There are two centers which are being run by the trust. The third project is Vocational Training Center for Needy Women. As the students come from slums and slum-like areas, the mothers, the problem they face is the paucity of funds. And hence in 1989, the trust started first vocational training course by basic tailoring course. Since then, number of courses are being run. Tailoring is there, dress designing course is there, assistant nursing course is run. And through this humble endeavor, we could help more than 4,000 needy women to become self-reliant. The fourth project is Science and Technology Mobile Laboratory Project. It is run to cater to the needs of students from village backgrounds. Our vehicle and the project team goes to about 90 schools around Pune and covers about 20,000 students from village background. The fifth project is Coaching Center for Competitive Examination. Since year 2000, we are running this center for MPSC students. As we know that to appear to this MPSC exam, 99% students come from village background. And considering their poor financial position, we sponsor the students. We don't charge any fees to them. And through this humble endeavor, till date, I'm very proud to mention that 350 students have become officers in various departments of the state government. The fifth project is self-study center. Many of the students live in single room family, so they don't have sufficient space to concentrate, to do study or concentrate on studies. So this self-study center helps them. They come to the study center. It is run from 6 a.m. up to midnight. There are 3 such centers which are being run by us. And one more project which is in process is a vocational training center. We are constructing an institute building near Pune at village Charoli. And it is in progress. And by June 22, we will start running courses at this new building. Mainly nursing and paramedical courses will be run at this center. Next slide, please. As we know that on 23rd March 2020, national lockdown was declared, and we had no option but to physically stop working of all the projects with immediate effect. It was necessary to follow the government instructions, and immediately we acted on that. At the same time, we asked our youth volunteers and the project team members to be in touch. It was required because we are a social organization, and it is necessary to respond to the government expectations, because government needs support from social institutes in such conditions. So we asked our volunteers and team members to be in touch, and within a week, we started working actively, participating in some of the activities which were essential at that time. About that, I will talk at a later stage. Just within a week, the trust started to actively participate in such essential activities. The project team members, they were busy on thinking how to continue their projects online, because till then it was not even thought that we will be required to run our projects online. Zoom, Google, YouTube platforms, these words were new to many of the project team members. But the youth volunteers who are regularly using all these platforms, they train the project teams, and the project team started using computers or laptops and started their activities online. Even Montessori teachers, they started using these platforms. They started making video clips. They started talking to the parents and to the kids online. And at the same time, they started learning how to handle these platforms smoothly. The ongoing projects, most of the projects did not stop, but found a new way to get connected and work safely from home. As I said, the Montessori teachers also started using the mobile tool, the YouTube. The teachers started making new video clips daily. Stories were recorded, they were sent on mobile. The daily school was run on mobile. Parents were also at home, so they were also enjoying the school. And during the first lockdown, even camps were organized by Montessori school online. It was a Diwali Shibir, and everybody liked it very much. I must mention here that the pandemic did not only put hurdle, it was an opportunity. And so two teachers from Montessori schools, they completed their graduation through Yashwantrao Chavan Mukta Vidyapit. So it was an opportunity for them to concentrate on studies also. So if I talk about the mobile laboratory, because the vehicle daily goes to 3-4 villages and cover some topics from their syllabus or show them the latest technology through the tools they take with them. But due to the pandemic and due to the lockdown, the project team, they started working online, and during this period, they conducted some competitions online. If you see on the project presentation, you will see that there are 4 types of projects. Dhvani Vidyan Spardha, it was about the sound. Then Touch the Sky, it was about the drone technology. The third was on virus. And for that, some material was sent to the students through messages or through WhatsApp. And I must mention here that the students from village background, they are so eager to learn that if they don't have the smartphones, they did not stop. But with the help of their friends who have that facility, they participated in these competitions. And for all these competitions, the number of participants was above 15,000. And not only the Pune district and Satara where we work, but there were participants from Sangli and Kalyan also. Because the students, even we see it today, that since the schools are not working, they are very eager to participate in any such activity which will make them happy. So through Science and Technology Mobile Laboratory, through such competitions, the project was working online, and it was a new challenge for them, but they could do it successfully. About the coaching center for competitive examinations, most of the students come from village background, and such condition was very difficult for them because they had to go back to their village. There was no any option for them. But there were still some students who could not go back to their villages. There were about 27 students of our center who could not go back. So we made arrangement, their tiffin arrangement, the trust made it, and throughout this period, they were provided the tiffins. Though the students could not come to the center for coaching, but we could organize online lectures for them. I must mention here that there was one examination announced for Vana Vibhag. Vana Adhikari. And there were students eager to appear to the exam. So we organized online lecture series for them. And I'm very proud to mention here that 16 students from that batch succeeded in that examination, 5 of them for class 1 post and 11 for the class 2 post. We have about 350 officers who were coached through this center. As a regular basis, we have a rapport system with them. There are 2 volunteers who go to the officers in various districts, talk to them, try to know their achievements. And at some times we organize their get together also. But in this condition, there was an online get together about the pass out students. And it was very much encouraging for us, because in such conditions, we were able to know how our students are doing great job to serve the society. Integrated Development Center is our main project. And along with that, since last 2 years, we are working in 22 slums through a project called Utthan. It's a Sanskar Varga Kam Abhyasika. And about 1,000 students are covered through this Utthan project. And through Integrated Development Center, 800 students are taken care of. So during this period, it was not possible for volunteers to ask the students to come to the center. But we developed a rapport system. And online camps were also organized. And some online homework was also started. The volunteers started giving to the students. This made them to think that they should start some sort of magazine where the students could do something at home. And they decided to publish Vardhan Pustika. The first theme was Maitri, friendship. And number of angles related to friendship were focused through these booklets. They were distributed to each and every student through the volunteer team, and the students were doing the activities which are given in the booklet. Now, this has become a regular activity, and after the normal situation, the booklets are being printed on different topics also. The main purpose of social work like Swarupardhini is to respond to the society, to the government in difficult situations. We are answerable and we are here to serve the society. So in such adverse conditions, it was our duty to actually participate and do something for the society. So during this lockdown period, during this pandemic period, the first lockdown and second lockdown, number of activities were carried out by our volunteer team, especially the youth team. Till this date, our volunteers had experience to work for earthquake, for flood, for tsunami. Wherever the problem had arose, we had sent our teams to serve the brethren over there. But pandemic was a totally different situation for all of us. But the volunteer team was ready to accept any challenge and to serve the society. The local government, the local corporation was also expecting social organizations to support them, to help them, and we responded positively. But even before that, as the first lockdown was declared, our volunteer team helped through grocery kits to 1,500 needy families, including some families from Katkari tribe, which resides in Mulchi Tehsil. It is away from our center about 60 kilometers. But we have regular rapport with them. Weekly, our volunteers go and work with the Katkari tribe. So in this situation, in the first lockout, as it was declared, within a week, we distributed about 1,500 kits to such needy families who did not have any uh, facility available to them to meet the both ends. During the first lockdown, the spread was more on slum-like areas, and so the area were distributed in hotspot area where nobody was daring to go. But our youth volunteers, on appeal from local corporation, decided to go door to door to find out the probable patients, to organize medical camps, and this helped a lot. Even we distributed 1,000 kits of Ayurvedic medicine, which was available at that time and which was helpful for every household. So the distribution was done by these youth volunteer teams. The tailoring team, which otherwise focuses on running the course, they started producing masks, and it were distributed, the masks were distributed in various slums. The nearby hospitals, especially charity hospitals, our team distributed 50 kits of cloths for newly born babies. During the period August to November 2020, there was a COVID care center run by Janakalyan Samiti. It is a social organization, and they appeal to other organizations to help them. A team of 25 volunteers worked for this COVID care center 24/7. During Ganesh festival, the Pune Municipal Corporation had appealed to help them to collect the Ganesh idols through 72 centers opened by Municipal Corporation. A team of about 600 youth volunteers, they participated in that center, appealed the common people over there, and collected about 15,000 Ganesh idols. Otherwise, it would have gone into the river, Mutha River or Mula River. So, through this, the municipal corporation, actually, the mayor came to the trust and gave his expressed his feelings about of gratitude. But it was our duty to help them. Whenever they asked, we responded positively. During the first and second wave, the Janakalyan blood bank, all the blood banks, they were in need of blood bags. Donors were not coming to the center due to the fear of COVID. Through through 21 camps during the first and second wave, Swaroop Vardhini organized these camps, and we could collect more than 1,000 blood bags, which were actually required by the blood banks and the hospitals. Even we know that plasma donation was a key word at that time. So a plasma donation camp was also organized, and we could have a list of 50 donors, eligible donors who could give their plasma whenever they were called by Janakalyan Bank or by the other hospitals. There was a scheme run by RSS. It was Samarth Bharat Punar Nirman Abhiyan, Punar Bandhane Abhiyan. Many people lost their jobs. Some of them had to stop their business also. There was financial crunch. Number of families are not able to earn money. So it was an appeal by that organization to find out such people and help them wherever possible. Our team visited nearby slums, met such people, and a list of 850 needy persons was prepared who lost their income source. Out of these, 117 persons could get alternative jobs, and we could help 70 persons to start their own small businesses. It was like a chai ki gadi, barber shop, like that. So the RSS and Janakalan Samiti, they supported financially, and we could organize the needy people who were expecting either job or financial support to start the business. During the second wave, we established a war room to help patients and their relatives, because number of people were worried because they wanted an oxygen bed, ventilation bed, some medicines were required, but they were not getting it. So to help them, where it is available, the war room was working, and 15 volunteers, youth volunteers, were available there 24/7. Our counseling center team, they supported Sassoon Hospital, because Sassoon Hospital was a place where hundreds and hundreds of COVID patients were coming daily, and the death toll was also on a high note. To get the death pass was not also an easy job. Our team helped Sassoon Hospital. They started a center with computer over there, and within 15 minutes, the death passes were issued free of cost. Otherwise, to get a copy of Aadhaar card, Xerox copy, people were asked to pay 50 rupees or 100 rupees. So free of cost, this service was offered. And through this humble service, we could help hundreds of needy people at such crucial time. During the second wave, the Pune municipality also requested the trust to help them to conduct funerals, because the death toll was so high that the employees working at funeral centers, they were not able to do the job. A team of 20 youth volunteers from Swarupardhini, including 12 girl students, they offered their seva in conducting the funerals of Konarad dead patients at Vaikunth Smashan Bhumi. Totally 435 funerals were conducted, organized by our team. As the situation was started coming to normal, the trust decided to help the society by organizing free vaccination program, because it was the need, and even it is the need of the hour. Balasaheb Devraj Polyclinic, they offered free vaccines, and we organized the free vaccination program for needy persons in the society. With the help of Ganesh Mandal and other social organizations, we conducted 58 camps, and we could help 25,000 needy persons to get free vaccination. This service of free vaccination is still going on, and wherever it is necessary, we are organizing that camp. During the first and second wave, I feel very bad to mention here that we lost 2 of our volunteers due to COVID. One of them was our full-time worker who was working full-time since 1996. He was just 49. And the second one, he was our senior supporter. He was a senior worker. He was 85 years old, and we lost them during these 2 waves. The last 2 pages, you will see number of photographs of all the activities which were carried out during this pandemic, first and second wave. Normalcy is coming, but not fully. But this pandemic has taught us so many things, that even though there are hurdles, you find a way there itself. And through innovative ways, we could help the society, we could survive, we could expand, and the confidence level is on higher side. The morale of the volunteers is very high, and it will help to expand our activities in future. I am very confident about that. That is what I wanted to share. If there are some questions, some queries, I will try to satisfy.
Thank you, Shirish Patwardhan ji. Shat Shat Pranam. I think I salute you. You have rightly said need of the hour, and we realize your organization was there where it was most needed. In the most critical areas, your organization stepped in, and that was a wonderful thing. Very few organizations must have thought in those ways, whether it is plasma, whether it is funeral, whether it is issuing death passes, even finding new ways. You were quick to adopt. That was a wonderful thing to hear. You said new ways, new challenges. You said those students who never had the smartphone, you came up with the innovative idea of creating Pustika. I think the think tank is so wonderful. So salute to you, sir. So there are lots of questions. Hopefully they will get addressed. So the first question is from Narendra ji. He is asking how many established self-employment in rural area got created?
As far as rural area is concerned, we don't have much figure because we focus in Pune city.
Okay.
Huh.
Okay.
So from village background, I don't have much idea.
Okay. Because of all these changes that you brought in,
Yeah.
did it impact your cost factor and the running of the organization financials?
No, not at all. To
Oh,
some extent,
wonderful.
definitely. But our society is so great that when we started working for COVID, to handle the COVID situation, we got financial support from so many industries, so many persons, so many trusts. I have not mentioned, but we have supplied 2 oxygen tankers and with oxygen plant, that erection is going on at Tuljapur, and we got financial support from industries from a nearby MIDC area.
Oh, wonderful.
So
wonderful.
finance is not a problem.
Yeah.
The financial support needs an organization like Swarupardhini who would use it every rupee for the cause for which it has been given. That transparency and that truthfulness, that is necessary.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, good work. Automatically money pours in. So wonderful, Shirish ji. सुन के बहुत अच्छा लगा. Really proud of your organization and your all the efforts. Your team members appreciate their dedication to the organization. And I think the most important thing that really touched is that funeral part. Yes, it was an issue during that time.
Yes.
Salute to your organization.
Yes, and relatives are also ready to touch the body.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. That was the situation. So you people stepped in. So wonderful thing. Chaitanya, Bhakti, any questions from your side or any other questions?
One more question. I think we can take the questions maybe towards the end after.
Okay.
But I think we've got some few questions and they have been answered. So it's happy. And if any more questions come, we will
Perfect.
try and get them answered later on also.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So that's fine. So thank you, Shirish ji, for the wonderful presentation and really highlighting wonderful things. So this is a
Thank you so much.
Our next speaker and one of the most famous names. I don't think we require to really introduce this speaker. She's a social activist working for tribals, Dalits, farmers, laborers and women facing problem have actively raised crucial political and economic issues impacting this category and people in general. Narmada Bachao Andolan, kaun nahi janta, who doesn't know the kind of work that actually she took up. When I was going through her profile, something very interesting was she was a national merit holder in HSC, a wonderful thing. She stood first. She stood first in urban and rural community development. She was also a faculty at Tata Institute of Social Science for 3 years. And she worked in slums. Where all not. Wonderful work. Huge list of national awards. So therefore, I'm not going to mention all that. Huge list of international awards. When you do good work, awards also pour in. Please welcome our eminent speaker today for the second session, Srimati Medha Patkar. And as usual, at the end of her talk, we will take up any questions that you all have. So Medha ji, all over to you.
Thank you, Venkatesh ji. Massive work done by Shirish Patwardhan was just presented. But the sections I work with are very different and sorry. And I am going to present the whole issue of looking backward and looking forward, looking back and looking forward in a different perspective.
Yeah.
Because just as this coronavirus came to be identified, the very first phase was that of discussion on the genesis of the virus and how did it come out of the laboratory in Wuhan, which was a laboratory established by Bill Gates Foundation. Was it really related to the 5G and its radiation? Was discussed in a large number of fora. But ultimately, when the impact started occurring, everyone had to concentrate on the disastrous effects. And we know that it was the nature that was blamed by many. But whether it was really something that can be considered as the natural calamity alone, or is it really a result of the human society playing with the natural resources, which is giving rise to climate change, which is giving rise to various kinds of calamities, the cyclones, and the drought and flood cycle, as well as viruses of various kinds. This was a question raised and the answer given by almost all at the world level was that, yes, it is the nature that we must care if we want to really get rid of viruses in whatever variants they come across our life. But it is generally the disaster management, not only in the form of an act, but plans and actions that is planned. It is less amount of disaster prevention or disaster control that seems to be on the social, economic, and political agenda. And this is what is realized during this pandemic. People could see the birds walking at the airport and the rivers flowing with the pure looking waters and so on. But we know that the impacts really have affected various sectors: health, education, employment, that is livelihoods, but it has also affected the countries and the world level economy. And it has certainly brought in changes in the political processes within India and abroad. And hence we have to really look at each in a very, very brief way. I would touch things tangentially and then answer the questions to fill in the gaps. The first and the foremost, when the health is affected, we realized that people were dying due to non-availability of oxygen, something that is freely given to us by the green ventilators. Why is it lacking in the life and environment today? Because the green cover is affected. This is realized much more than ever during this pandemic. Although every cyclone faced by the fish workers on the seashores, coastal regions, etc., it gives some kind of perspective and challenges the communities living there, but also the communities in turn challenge the state and the society, asking them, what are you doing that is leading to this kind of calamity? Now, in this pandemic also, when the health was severely affected, the whole sector had to be analyzed. No doubt, we also got into the relief immediately because we did not want the social distancing to grow in the country, whether on the basis of caste, religion, gender, or class. We wanted the physical distancing to be maintained, no doubt, but the children not taking care of parents out of the fear of touching them or even carrying out the funeral rites, something which was really moving our hearts. Hence, it was necessary to get into the relief. But while doing the relief work with thousands of families in the slums, in the urban areas, because we have the Ghar Bachao, Ghar Banao Andolan as stressing or addressing the housing rights issues and the other issues in Mumbai and other cities. But also we have the not just Narmada Bachao, but Desh Bachao kind of movement and an alliance of hundreds of people's movements in the country. So through our perspective, we really looked at what was happening in the health sector. And we realized that the state was unable to carry out its responsibility. And that is because neither is the budget allotted to health sector to the extent it should be, nor is the state's responsibility taken care of without handing over the same to the private sector. And when 80 crores of people in our country are still dependent on the public distribution system, we can imagine how can they spend lakhs of rupees on a particular disease or during the corona affected situation. No doubt they had Ayushman cards, they had some Deen Dayal Yojana in Madhya Pradesh or the Rajiv Gandhi Yojana, Mahatma Phule Jeevan-dayi Yojana, but no, that was not giving them free service everywhere. And we could really identify such situations and families, and we had to raise our voice. And even today we say that when they have some scheme benefit like the Ayushman card benefit, they cannot be asked to purchase medicines worth thousands of rupees per day. But this is exactly what was happening, and we had to really get into it and stop it to the extent possible. But we realized that the state must improve its health system because the maximum percentage of our population cannot really go and lose all their bank balance in one single attack of any virus or disease. We also realized that there is no decentralized health system. There are no primary health centers with full staff and running with full equipments. Now, no doubt the society jumps into the situation of any calamity, but that doesn't mean that they can take care of forever throughout the life of these so-called poor people who are rich in natural resources, who are rich in human resources and labor capital, but they cannot spend money. And when the money-based or market-based health system really falls short of the requirement during such pandemic and the attack, we have to really think and look forward towards improving our health system and making the state take up the responsibility. There were no controls over the private hospitals, who no doubt served the patients. The Corona Yoddhas really worked hard. I know that many of our Adivasi young girls who have taken nursing courses were really called urgently with the emergency pointed out, but they were thrown out after a few months and they really became unemployed. And when they were working hard, some places they were not taken care of, and other places they were given full equipments and opportunities to make them safe and secure. So there were these kinds of experiences that we came across. And we know that now we have to improve our health system. We have to improve our budget for health, and we have to decentralize the system. We need paramedic workers force so strong at every community level, whether urban or rural, which can work not only whatever in the activities which are carried out by the ASHA workers today, but much more improved training should be given to them, and they must get the full support. Otherwise, they also feel exploited. So we had to really get into these issues related to health. And we know that health depends on nutrition. We have in this country 3,000 children dying of malnutrition every day. When we are so scared of the viruses which lead to loss of life, we have to be scared of malnutrition situation as well. And for that, the public distribution system, the food security, on which 2013 Act came into being after much struggle by all of us, many campaigns and movements took up this issue. But even today, we are having 80 crores people in the country as our target for PDS. But that is the statistics based on 2011 survey census, and we need to really review that. And we also need to really improve the PDS system. It was unfortunate that the Essential Commodities Act of 1955 was likely to be amended. Fortunately, the farmers fought the battles so strong with so much of martyrdom that that act, one of the three acts, had to be withdrawn. But we still feel that when the Niti Aayog has suggested that we need not have the PDS, we can have the DBT, put in some money in the bank accounts of the poor people, and they will take care of their food requirements. No, that will not happen, because liquor is a business for the state, not only for the private liquor shopkeepers. And there the money will certainly be transferred and not to fill the stomachs of the children and the women who are always at the periphery of the families in the present patriarchal system of our country and society. So it is necessary that the PDS needs to be improved. Now that is not impossible at all. If we have the Corporation of India, again, the statutory responsibility, without making the, without having the food grains stored into some silos or godowns of the big corporates, on which the Comptroller and Auditor General of India has made highly critical comment that we have unnecessarily spent huge amounts and benefited those. But the state must increase its godowns, its infrastructure, store the grains and all the essential commodities, and should not remove those from the list of essential commodities. And that's why beyond the pandemic, we must really raise our voice in favor of those who are not even fed properly and have lost the food security much more than ever due to the pandemic and its impact on their livelihoods. Now, this demand has been made, but there are so many issues: corruption to disruption, biometrics not working for the real labor families who cannot have their farms clean enough with no changes that really come into as the obstruction in the biometrics. And therefore, we have to really carry on and on and on this work. And I would appeal to all the organizations to really take up not only relief, but this kind of work which will have a long-term impact and change the system of health. We also know that the pollution is killing 16 lakhs of people in our country annually. Now, what is the result of pandemic? Many people felt that rivers got depolluted and purified and everything was stopped. Even the industries were closed, but no, the pollution continues to increase. Rather, during pandemic, I can give you the specific information, but I'm not going into the details because time is short. At each industrial estate, whether it is in Boisar near Mumbai, whether it is in Nagda and Pithampura in Madhya Pradesh or elsewhere, we have seen that the effluents during the pandemic were thrown as near as possible because the transport was stopped, and those have traveled into the river straight away and also into the groundwater. I can show you that 40 to 50 of Adivasi villages have lost their every source of drinking water because the water that is flowing with the effluents is non-potable. I have the test reports in my hands, but how much attention was given to these kinds of things which were happening behind the curtain during pandemic, and those who were maybe losing money or profits during pandemic, but they were making the people, the common people, lose their lives, not just livelihoods. So this also needs to be really looked into and action needs to be taken up. But then we have seen that during pandemic, instead of really taking more care of our nature and natural resources, what has happened is that in order to have our economy grow faster, because there was a drop in the GDP, a drop in the other economic parameters, it is very, very proudly stated by our rulers at the top that they will now take up large a growth in industrialization, and they will take up the development projects and projects with industrialization, but also mechanization and infrastructure development and so on. Now, there is a very, very in-depth discussion and debate going on, not only in Paris and Glasgow, but even in our country, as to whether this kind of growing economy will really save human lives and the livelihoods, or it will really turn against our life and livelihood. Now, that is the kind of warning given by the 1,500 and more scientists. And that must be realized in the context of this pandemic, that what are we doing with our natural resources? We are killing our forests. We are submerging our forests for not just big dams, but also for the diamond mining, which is more important than the natural forests that are surviving to whatever extent we have saved those till today. Now, this kind of approach, which requires the full control and regulation with the help of the environmental laws and legal regime, is really very, very hazardous, but also very, very dangerous. And we know that during lockdown itself, the environmental laws and regulations are changed towards weakening those, not strengthening those. Beyond pandemic, we must really look into what are the changes which are being brought into the environmental thing. Our rulers, our power holders really criticize many of us when we say that save environment, save green ventilators, save forests, save rivers from pollution. And they say that these people are eco-fundamentalists. No, the economic fundamentalism is something that is causing the world to really worry about the continuity life of the humanity itself. And it is not just Greta
Your voice is
Thunberg
lost.
and Disha Ravi.
Yeah, sorry.
It is not just Greta Thunberg and Disha Ravi, but thousands and lakhs of youths have shouted when the Glasgow conference was going on. So these kinds of summits really commit a lot, but we know that the coal and the thermal power and the energy intensive technology as well as energy intensive economy is continuing, and no one is paying attention to this. Now, how will we survive if the not just CO2 but the greenhouse gas emissions, the term that is used, greenhouse, is wrong really. It is misnomer, but it is necessary that we really look at our energy sector if we have to save our lives, and that all the statistics is available. We have the sources of renewable energy, solar to human power itself, but we are getting more and more mechanized. Now, not going back all the way to Hind Swaraj of Mahatma Gandhi, but we must at least listen to the warnings given by the global scientists who are saying that unless you stop thermal power, unless you stop carbon emissions, and for that we have to reduce the emission by 7.5% every year. If we have to follow the Sustainable Development Goals, which were 8 goals, much publicized and much said to be followed, but which are not really. So these Millennium Goals is something that we must keep in our mind. And for changing our approach to economy, we must really stop the uncontrolled growth. And that can happen only if we change not just the sources of energy, but we change our lifestyles as well. Now, when we are becoming more and more consumerist, we cannot really save water, energy, and also the air for pollution, from pollution. We have the act since 1970s, 1980s, but now the state is not bothered about it because our politicians have become partners in the businesses. So ease of doing business is at the cost of nature, and it is also at the cost of large percentage of our population that survives on nature and human power. Now, this next issue is therefore of the livelihoods. What was the impact of pandemic on livelihoods? As Patwardhanji said, that many lost their livelihoods. Many families in the upper class or higher middle class I've seen did not allow the domestic servant to enter their families. What will these women do? I know that many widow women who have been working as the domestic servants lost their livelihood completely and could not even send their children to any activity or any school because they had no money to be paid and no money to purchase even an Android smartphone. So they were not smart enough to really find a way out themselves. Now, in such situation, what is the responsibility of the state for the immediate future? They should have really granted them at least a small amount with which they could have the self-employment carried out, for which the Constitution has shown a way, but we are not bothered about that Article 43, which on one hand supports and promotes prohibition to be carried out by the state so that the money is not wasted into liquor and various kinds of addictions, which the women suffer the most and the children suffer the most. But even today, the state is carrying out its liquor business and earning thousands of crores every year. Even during pandemic, the liquor shops were opened, but not the schools. Now, this is something which we must change, but the same article talks about, no, not the same article, Article 47, which talks about the Sakas Ahar, the nutrition, which is the state's responsibility, for which we are demanding the PDS to be increased to 15 kg at least, because 5 kg cannot take care of one full month. It is only for 8 days and not more. And some oil and some dal pulses at least should be included in the PDS. And that can be available from the locally grown foods, eatables, the produces of agriculture. But that is not cared. That goes out, and the outside exogenous sources feed the people in the community. This is absolutely unacceptable. But I was talking about the industries, and I changed my track a little to go back. I was saying that our article, like the article 43, really talks about the cottage and village industries. Now, these kinds of so-called handmade economies will only ensure employment, surety, and guarantee. Now, that the state is not responding to. We can, as you said, Venkateshji, that can have the enterprising youths and the entrepreneur groups, self-help groups, and so on, for which there is a change at two fronts. One, the market should be available, and that will happen only if all of us also look at what is it that we buy, whether we buy the handmade products and we are ready to pay for that little more than the mechanized products or not. We should also have a look at the agricultural front. Why did and why are the farmers fighting till today? At least tomorrow, I don't know. But they are fighting because they want to save the land for agriculture. So diversion of land or transfer of land to non-agricultural activities, or compelling the farmers to either commit suicide or to give away their lands, because that is the losing capital and that is the losing business. That situation needs to be changed. And that is why not just minimum, I would say that optimum support price for food, which is the most essential commodity, must be ensured through a proper law to be brought in. Instead, the government has changed or approved the bills, not less than 21 bills in the parliament in 20 hours only. Now, this is the political impact of the lockdown and the pandemic, which also needs to be analyzed, criticized, and we must really question it, because all these bills are supporting the corporates, not the communities. They are not supporting the poor. The corporates, I can name them beginning with A, B, T, J, M, and so on. They are earning, as the statistics show, and they declare with pride that they are earning not less than 1,000 crores per day. And our rural or the urban laborers cannot even think of earning 1,000 rupees per day. Now, this inequity, has it come down or grown beyond limits during pandemic, needs to be looked into, and this needs to be attacked. Instead of their assault on the economies of the majority of our population, who are wrongly called as unorganized sector. No, they are more organized. They are more fighting spirit, but they are insecure. They are not even guaranteed with either pension or provident fund. And why are they kept like that? Because they are serving as the human capital for these big industries and big enterprises. And that is leading to the migration, which we saw what impact it brings on those who work as construction workers, build the big buildings, high-rise buildings, infrastructures, who grow in the food in the farms, who do everything, bring the newspaper to milk at our doorstep and so on. But they were compelled to walk thousands of kilometers, and we had to take up to fast on the border of Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. So the same day as we entered Maharashtra from Madhya Pradesh, they had to start the ST service, state transport, and the trains. We had to really get one after another from the center. We had to really work throughout at the Pune station and at various stations in 10 districts of Maharashtra. But same was the situation in other states as well. And we realized through this that our economy is not really stable nor sustainable. And in order to make it stable and sustainable, we must really target stoppage of migration, because that impacts the children in the families, that impacts the relationships between the old parents and their young sons and daughters, who really are compelled to travel and travel back in the situations like pandemic. Now, the Supreme Court in our petition, which was one of the many petitions, had clearly directed the states to start the help desks and give them all information about the schemes for employment generation. But that has not happened. In a state like Uttar Pradesh, where many of our allied organizations are working, I know that the false statistics and false claims are made through huge banners about rising the employment opportunities by crores. But no, that is not happening. What needs to happen is really the planning development with a new paradigm. And that paradigm will have to be, on one hand, natural resource based, on the other hand, the human power based, and for which there is technology available in every sector. We cannot go to artificial intelligence technology, which will kill employment. And we may say that, oh, that is the global technology, and that really would indicate progress. No, that will be regress, because even the present level of inequity, present level of unemployment, present level of underemployment will really rise with these kinds of approach, which is technological approach. We are not denying the role of technology, but with Googleization also, the education sector is affected. We have our schools of life, Jeevan Shalas, in the Narmada Valley. For last 30 years, we have thousands of Adivasi children from the first learner generation coming out, graduating, and also getting into the employment, or becoming our own activists and becoming our own teachers in our own schools. We started those schools even during the lockdown, because in our villages on the Narmada bank, there was no corona. And we could get the permission from the collector and the education officer after we started those post facto, because we realized that the children were losing their attention, losing their motivation for education. Now, in such situation, we started the Nirman Shalas. We had the children, youths who were also at home, not going to their college. We made them take 3 hours classes for those children beyond our primary schools who were not going to schools, because their schools were the government schools and they were closed down. So this Nirman Shalas really created a new atmosphere. And those young teachers who were really students, college students, they overnight became teachers, felt so motivated that they started reading on the social issues and take up 1 hour for themselves and 3 hours with the children on not just the curriculum, but also the other things. So even
Vedaji, sorry. So
I will end within 5 minutes.
Oh, great.
Okay. I know that in education sector also there have been huge impacts of pandemic. This online education has its pros and cons, no doubt. We are today able to have this dialogue through online, but that is not the ultimate solution. It is unfortunate that the Maharashtra government has started State Education and Technology Forum, and you kindly look into it. What is it? Who are going to manage this forum? There are all corporates like Microsoft and Google who are made the members of this forum, and the rest are the authorities, officials from the education department. Not one single educationist is there on this forum. So we have formed the Navajivan Shikshan Manch during pandemic, and we have looked at the impacts of online. I will just mention one impact. In one of the Adivasi communities, 15 children, mostly the girls, got married, discontinuing their education. Now, when they come back to their communities. We considered them as not dropouts, but drop-ins. But they were married and their whole exercise of education in that sector was stopped. Now, these kinds of impacts, including the domestic violence that grew up in this, how can we take care of that? We need to ensure the employment opportunities. Until that happens, there is a need to really pay cash, but cash with certain conditions, and cash should go in the hands of women, not just men, or at least in the joint account of both men and women. Now, this is the demand we raised, and 40,000 crores at one go was obtained by the central government through the 9 agreements that they entered into with 9 international financial institutions, but the money has not come in. Some states gave 1,500 or so. How much, how long can it last? So all these impacts need to be really taken care of. Now, where the money will come from for such activities? Patwardhanji said that he got money from CSR, the same corporates, RSS, and so on. But what is needed is that the state exchequers also must be filled. Instead, the state exchequers are getting emptied by sale of the public sector. If the railway is sold out, if the BPCL, HPCL is sold out, if LIC also goes into hands of the private insurance companies, how will the state exchequer get filled? We need the state taking up the responsibility and carrying out with the same legal regime which has grown over years and decades since the independence in the constitutional framework of values and directive principles. And that will really give rise to the real enterprises which would take care of inequity and injustice. Otherwise, displacement, deprivation, destitutionalization is going on with a huge growth-based model. We need money to come from raise in the wealth tax. We need the money to come from increase in the heritage tax, that is on the inherited property. There are so many solutions, and some of the properties can also be acquisition. If the state acquire lands of the people with force, this recently Haryana government has brought out, while this farmers movement is on, that they can acquire land in 48 hours. Now, we got that Acquisition Act of 1894 changed in 2013, but even that is not applied either in Maharashtra, because the former government changed that, and many states changed that and bypassed that law. So we need the laws to protect the workers, not repeal of 29 labor laws, which is also a result of the pandemic. Many intellectuals may not be looking into all these impacts, but these are also the real impacts, which are political, economic impacts, and that is resulting into the social inequity and social injustice, especially in the case of the communities. Now, the solution is community development. And for that, Article 243 of our Constitution, I will just point out to that and say that we must have the decentralized planning of development with the resources to fulfill the basic needs, which is real development, real progress. And we need not have all our attention at the global markets and global paradigms, but we must have the local paradigms and the self-reliance, Atmanirbharta, for the villages to the state and the country will then be a result of that, not otherwise. Thank you very much. Sorry for taking a little longer.
Wonderful stamina. 40 minutes in one go.
I was not finding my language because I'm changing my
So much
language
of
every hour.
insight and so much of critical analysis of each and every area. The green cover you talked about the Ghar Bachao, how, and Ghar Banao, how it was there. State government failure you highlighted in healthcare sector. Yojnas not functioning, only the namesake they were there. Yes, they were all highlighted, but not to the extent the way you said. Infrastructure storage to meet the PDS requirement. So many things you highlighted. Had these been taken care, yes, the pandemic effect would not have been that huge. You also said development versus human life. balancing of that. And you said the laws have been enacted to weaken the environmental. I think so many things came out. I was engrossed and lots of questions have come up. I think I will take a few questions right now, and other questions we will send it to you via email and request you to address them also. They will be very happy. So one of the questions that has come is how a non-profit organization should manage Sangharsh versus Vikas.
This dichotomy is not acceptable to us. It is Sangharsha for Vikas. But
Sangharsh.
Vikas, Sacha Vikas. What is development? That's what I was raising a question. I'll just switch over to Hindi because I'm not able to
Please,
concentrate.
please.
हम अगर विकास को कोई भी बदलाव मानते हैं तो वो बदलाव न्यायपूर्ण होना चाहिए, वो बदलाव समता के दिशा में होना चाहिए और वो बदलाव निरंतरता के दिशा में होना चाहिए. We need sustainability with justice. Now this is the title of many reports by the big corporates. I just saw recently the Kumar Mangalam Birla's report, Sustainability with Justice. Sustainability is their title. But no, all these corporates have retrenched or closed down workers or closed down their mills and industries at the cost of the livelihoods of thousands of workers. I can name many of them. Now, this is not acceptable. So we want development. And when the injustice occurs, we have to take to struggle. So we want struggle and reconstruction. Now, reconstruction means the proper choice of technology. Solar power में जाना है, micro hydel power projects में जाना है. जैसे हमने एक project बनाया, and the Swadesh film was on our project in the Satpuras. But that project got submerged because the surveys of the governments went wrong, not our technology, which was without clear felling a tree, without building big dam, and up to 4 kilometer radius we were getting power, and that was brought up with the Shramadhan. So हमको ये बहुत जगह करना था, but government is not supportive. So it is necessary that the government must change its priorities, not to nuclear, but to solar, where the nature will be saved. Otherwise, the droughts and flood cycle with the big dams, with big infrastructure projects, we just realized when we studied Raigad and Kolhapur, 2 districts floods recently in Maharashtra. Everything is because the natural flows of water are crossed with the perpendicular infrastructural projects. Even the alignments are not properly taken care of. So we need to really look into all this. And Sangharsha, सही विकास के लिए.
सही विकास के लिए. बहुत बढ़िया. संघर्ष सही विकास के लिए. तो संघर्ष जरूरी है. Okay, then there is one more question from Owen Berkeley. Will anyone challenge what is being taught in top business schools, which seems to lack any ethics or morality?
Yes, we need to challenge that. And we keep doing it when we address the corporate sector also, because on one hand, the CSR is really acknowledged and praised beyond limits, but they must have the community social responsibility. If the effluents are thrown straight into the rivers, where is that responsibility exhibited in their actions and their plans? We also need to really stop encouraging large businesses, which really gets into concentration of wealth, which is against the constitutional framework. Read Article 39C of the Constitution, which says that the wealth should not be concentrated in the hands of a few. Our economy must really take care of that. So it is necessary to see that we really have to ensure that the corporates are not big beyond limits. And that's why we need to have the small village cottage industries and the medium industries also. And we must also have in our lifestyles due space and market space given to those products of those industries which are livelihood generating. employment generated.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yogesh Kulkarni ji is here. He has taken up so many such activities through Pabal Ashram.
Yeah.
We in the struggle don't get enough time, attention, and capacities to really build as much as we would like to. But now we have also started with the women's groups, because the mill workers are thrown out of the mills in hundreds. And we have to fight legally, but also take up the alternative socially.
In fact, we have lots of questions, but I will take this as a last question, and other questions, as I said, we will post it to you and take your time to respond. That will be nice of you. Do we really need world to live or compete to lead?
We need world to live, obviously, because competition is considered as one of the major indicator of development, modernity. But I don't think that will ever help the humanity survive. We have come to the edge of our survival. And that's what is said to us, not only by that Greta, but many, many. And even if our great Prime Minister is promising that by 2017, take care. No, that is also not likely to happen, because the whole paradigm that is followed is not only of corporatization, but of commodification and of consumerism. And that can never permit any ruler, any ruling party to really stop the unlimited growth and bring in the growth with sustainability and justice. And unless we change this paradigm, there will also not be equity and justice for the Dalits, Adivasis and all. They are the real producers. They are the real builders, but they are living in slums and they cannot even get the benefit of income during lockdown. We had to really raise the issues before the labor commissioners, because the laborers were thrown out during lockdown. And although there was a GR from the central ministry up to 17th May of last year, that also was not followed by many builders. And we still continue. Some have responded well, some have refused to respond. So all these things that the laborers have faced during pandemic is compelling us to really think of not just registration of laborers, but giving them the due space, due respect, and due benefit of the whole economy with the livelihood security.
Thank you, Medhaji. I was so engrossed in your talk with so much you highlighted. It was a wonderful eye-opener. So as I said, still lots of questions. We will definitely post it to you. Thank you for your wonderful time and so precious time. Thank you very much. And friends, paucity of time, so therefore we are not taking up other questions. Once again, I remind all those who have not yet affiliated with STARS Forum to get affiliated and take the benefit of this forum. Tomorrow will be the 4th day, and we will have 2 more eminent speakers, Mr. Amit Basole and Dr. O.P. Goyal. Do not forget to connect. Till then, thank you. Over to Bhakti.
Amit Basole is an expert and researcher on the employment issues. So I'm sure he will take my position further ahead.
Superb.
Venkatesh ji, thank you to the STARS Forum, and Bhakti ji also.
Thank you. Thank you. Over to you, Bhakti.
Yeah, thank you, Medhaji. Thanks, everyone. Yogesh sir, would you like to say something?
No, thank you, Medhaji, for your time and inspirational talk. And it gives us a new direction for the STARS Forum, because all the organizations in this forum, they are committed for the rural development and decentralized. So that dream we are looking for. In fact, STAR Forum, the idea was conceptualized only because we found nobody is talking for the skill training for improving livelihood in the rural areas. Everybody is talking for skill training for corporates, for industry. So that's how this STARS Forum is conceptualized. So thank you for giving us a different perspective. Thank you very much. And thank you, Shri, for your the presentation and the great work Swarup Vardhini has done during the COVID time. So thank you. We all have all appreciation for you. So thank you very much. Over to you, Bhakti.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I thank everybody. And I say this is the end of today's session.
See you tomorrow.
We will join tomorrow.
Yes.